I gave them everything, years of sacrifice, endless support, my hard-earned money, only to be discarded like I was nothing. I wasn't a son to them, just a wallet, a safety net they could drain dry. And Eric? The golden child, the leech, the one who never lifted a damn finger, he got it all. The will, the house, their love. The betrayal cut deep, but their audacity? Unforgivable. They used me, and now, they expect me to crawl back. Never. Growing up, I always knew my place in the family. I was James, the responsible one, the fixer, the one who always stepped up when things needed to get done. And then there was Leo, my younger brother, the golden child. If I ever had doubts about where I stood, my parents made sure to erase them at every turn. Leo was the one they doted on, the one they bragged about, the one who never had to lift a finger because, in their eyes, he could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I was the background character in my own family's story, the one who paid the bills, ran the errands, and held everything together while they barely acknowledged it. I didn't resent it at first. I figured it was just family dynamics, something I had to accept. But as the years passed, the pattern became impossible to ignore. I worked long hours to support myself while still helping my parents financially, covering mortgage payments and house repairs, while Leo, jobless and entitled, lived comfortably without a single expectation placed on him. They treated it as normal, as if it was my duty to sacrifice while Leo coasted through life. But what I didn't know was that the worst betrayal was yet to come. It happened by accident. A twist of fate, a careless moment that pulled the rug out from under me and left me reeling. If I hadn't been the one keeping my parents' lives running smoothly, I might never have found out. That day, I was at their house, our house, the one I had been helping them pay for over the last 5 years, handling some paperwork for them like I always did. My dad, never one for dealing with documents, had asked me to scan and organize a stack of files. I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary, just the usual bills, insurance forms, maybe some tax records. But then I saw it. A folder, thick and official-looking, labeled Estate Plan and Last Will and Testament. My hands hesitated over it for a moment. I wasn't a snoop. I never had been. But something about it made my stomach twist, a whisper of unease I couldn't ignore. After everything I had done for them, paying their mortgage, buying their groceries, fixing up their house, it didn't seem out of line to wonder how they had set things up for the future. So I opened it. And what I saw turned my blood to ice. Everything. Everything, the house, their savings, all their assets, was going to Leo. Not a single mention of me. Not a fraction of what I had invested into keeping them afloat. Just a few generic lines about how they loved both their sons equally. A cruel joke. A slap in the face. My breath came in short, shallow bursts as I reread the words, hoping I had somehow misinterpreted them. But no. It was right there, black and white, signed and notarized. The proof that I had never mattered, that I was never meant to matter. All these years, I had been the backbone of this family, sacrificing, working, making sure they never had to worry. And for what? For them to turn around and discard me like an afterthought? I heard my dad's voice behind me. James. What's taking so long? I turned to face him, the will still clutched in my trembling hands. Everything had changed. My fingers tightened around the will as I turned to face my father. The man who had leaned on me for years, who had called me whenever he needed something fixed, who never hesitated to let me step in when bills piled up, stood there, utterly oblivious to the fact that my entire world had just shattered. He looked at me expectantly, as if I were simply taking too long with the scanner. But my heart was hammering in my chest, my mind racing with questions I couldn't yet voice. I held up the papers, my voice unnervingly steady despite the storm brewing inside me. You care to explain this? The moment his eyes landed on the document, his entire demeanor shifted. A flicker of unease passed across his face before he masked it with that familiar, dismissive sigh, the same one he always used whenever I had something important to say, something that made him uncomfortable. "James, it's not what you think." I let out a short, humorless laugh, though nothing about this was funny. "Not what I think." "Really?" "Because what I think is that I've been paying for this house, your house, for years. And yet, somehow, you've decided that everything in it, everything you own, belongs to Leo." My father exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck like he was the one who had been wronged. "Look, your brother, he needs more help than you do. You have a good job, a stable life. Leo, well, he struggles." "Struggles?" That was the excuse. Leo wasn't struggling. He was lounging. Living off their generosity while I was the one keeping this house from falling apart. I clenched my jaw, the betrayal hitting harder than I had expected. "And what about me, Dad? Does it ever cross your mind that maybe I'd like to be taken care of too? That maybe I'd like to be appreciated for once?" He sighed again, looking anywhere but at me. "James, this is just how it is." That was the moment I knew, I had never truly been part of this family. Not the way Leo was. And I never would be. A deep, seething anger coiled in my chest, so tight it felt like I might explode. I had given everything to this family, my time, my energy, my hard-earned money, only to be told, without hesitation, that none of it mattered. That my sacrifices, my constant willingness to pick up the slack, were insignificant compared to Leo's struggles. I had spent years watching my brother drift through life like a leaf on the wind, no sense of responsibility, no drive to be anything more than what was handed to him. And my parents? They had coddled him every step of the way, reinforcing his delusion that the world would always provide for him, that there would always be a safety net waiting to catch him, even if I was the one forced to weave it together. And now? Now I was supposed to keep smiling, keep handing over my paycheck while they assured me I was better off without the one thing that should have been a given, a share in what I had helped them keep afloat. No. Not this time. I slammed the will down on the table, the sound sharp and final, like the last crack before a dam bursts. My mother flinched, her wide eyes darting to my father as if he would somehow smooth this over. But there was no fixing this. Not anymore. "You really think I'm just going to accept this?" I said, my voice shaking with frustration. "After everything I've done, after everything I've given to this family, you expect me to just stand here and nod while you erase me from the future?" My father sighed heavily, that same exhausted, dismissive look in his eyes that only fueled my rage. "James, you're overreacting. It's just money." I let out a bitter, disbelieving laugh. "Just money." That's what he called my years of sacrifice, my financial support that kept them from sinking. Just money. I turned to them, my pulse hammering. "Then figure it out without me." And with that, I walked out, leaving behind the weight of their betrayal, and the role they had expected me to keep playing forever. The days after that conversation felt eerily quiet, almost unnatural. For the first time in years, I didn't check in on my parents, didn't swing by their house to fix a leaky faucet or drop off groceries. I didn't answer their calls, didn't respond to their messages. And you know what? They didn't reach out much at first either. I think they expected me to come crawling back, tail between my legs, the way I always had. Maybe they thought I'd cool off, that I'd suddenly realize how unreasonable I was being and return to my role as the ever-reliable son, the one who put their comfort above his own well-being. But they underestimated me. This wasn't a tantrum. This was a line in the sand. Then the silence cracked. It started with a text from my dad. "The property taxes are due." No greeting. No acknowledgement of what had happened. Just a transaction, like I was a bank teller instead of his son. I stared at the message for a long moment, a bitter smirk tugging at my lips. They really think I'm still their safety net. I typed back, short and simple. "Ask Leo. The house is his, after all." The response came faster than I expected. My mom this time. James, please. Don't be like this. We need to talk. Ah. There it was. The shift. The moment they realized I wasn't just sulking, I was serious. I let her message sit there, unanswered, because for once, they could sit in the uncertainty. They could feel what it was like to be ignored, to be treated as an afterthought. Then, as if on cue, Leo decided to pipe in. Dude, stop being dramatic. Just help them out like you always do. I nearly laughed. The entitlement. The audacity. He still expected me to play my part, to keep carrying them while he coasted. I replied with a single message. Not my problem. And just like that, the foundation they had built on my sacrifice began to crumble. It didn't take long for my parents to realize I wasn't budging. The moment they had to face a bill without my wallet as a cushion, the panic set in. And the best part? I wasn't there to clean up their mess. At first, they tried to play it cool. My mom would send passive-aggressive texts, little reminders of my duty as a son. Family looks out for each other, James. We did so much for you growing up, and now you turn your back on us. As if years of neglect and favoritism could be wiped away with guilt. Then came my dad's attempt. Less pleading, more demanding. Just pay the mortgage for a few more months. Don't be selfish. Ah, there it was, selfish. Because in their minds, standing up for myself, refusing to be used, was selfish. But the real gem came from Leo. Bro, just send them the money. It's not that deep. Not that deep. I laughed out loud when I read it. Easy for him to say, since he wasn't the one footing the bill. So I hit them with a dose of their own medicine. I ignored them. The silence stretched into days. Then a week. And that's when things really got interesting. I woke up to a bank transfer request, $3,500 from my mom. No message, no explanation, just a cold, shameless demand. Like I was still their personal ATM. I declined it without hesitation. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom. Declined. Another text. James, we're going to lose the house if you don't help us. I exhaled slowly, a deep, satisfied breath. They were feeling it now. For once, they were the ones scrambling, the ones panicked, the ones unsure of what came next. And it felt good. So I sent a final message, one that I knew would make their stomachs drop. Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter. The power shift was complete. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one left picking up the pieces. Days passed, and the silence from my parents was deafening. It should have felt like a victory, but deep down, I knew it wasn't over. People like them, people who thrived on control, didn't just give up. They were simply recalculating, figuring out their next move. And then, right on cue, it happened. A new notification popped up on my phone. It was a Facebook post, my mom's. I clicked on it, already knowing it wouldn't be good. Family should never turn their back on each other. After everything we've done for our children, it's heartbreaking to be abandoned when we need them most. Some people forget that love isn't about money, it's about sacrifice. My stomach tightened. The comment section was filled with sympathy from family, friends and distant relatives, people who had no idea what was actually going on. Oh no, what happened? Is James okay? Kids these days have no respect for their parents. Stay strong, dear. He'll realize his mistake. Mistake. My mistake. Then came another post. This time from my dad. A parent's love is unconditional. Even when our children betray us, we still pray for them. I nearly crushed my phone in my hand. Betray them? After everything I had done? After all the sacrifices I made? And then, the cherry on top, Leo. Some people only care about money. But real family steps up when it counts. I'd do anything for mom and dad. Oh, now he was playing the good son. The one who would take care of them, just as soon as I cracked under pressure and wired the money. My blood boiled. They were rewriting the story. Turning themselves into the victims. And me? I was cast as the heartless villain who had abandoned his poor, struggling parents. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was done. They wanted to put on a show. Fine. But they were about to learn what happens when you push someone too far. Because now, I wasn't just fighting back. I was exposing them. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding. They thought they could twist the story, paint me as the villain, and get away with it. They had no idea what was coming. I took a deep breath, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. No more silence. No more letting them control the narrative. It was time for the truth. I crafted my post carefully, every word deliberate, every sentence sharp as a blade. For those of you who've seen my parents' recent posts, let me set the record straight. I have spent years supporting them financially, paying their mortgage, buying their groceries, fixing their house, while my brother, Leo, did absolutely nothing. Not a dime, not a minute of effort. And how did they repay me? By cutting me out of their will, leaving everything to him, while still expecting me to foot the bill. Family isn't just about words, it's about actions. And their actions made it clear I was never family to them, just a bank account. So if you think I betrayed them, ask yourself, would you keep paying for people who don't respect you? Who see you as nothing more than a dollar sign? I won't be guilt-tripped into financing their lies. The truth is out. Let them explain that. I hit post. And then, I waited. The first reaction came within minutes, a cousin, then a second cousin, then an aunt. Messages flooded in, people commenting, wait, what, and, that's not what they made it sound like. My parents had banked on their carefully constructed lies holding up under scrutiny, but now the cracks were forming. And then came the one message I was waiting for. Aunt Susan. She was my mother's older sister, a woman who took pride in sniffing out lies and tearing them apart. Her comment was simple but damning. This explains a lot. James, I believe you. Let's talk. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. The tides were turning. They had tried to bury me under their lies. But now, justice was knocking on their door. The silence from my parents was deafening. No desperate messages, no frantic calls, just an eerie quiet, like the calm before a storm. It wasn't like them to stay quiet for long. Not after I had exposed their lies. I knew the backlash was coming. They wouldn't go down without a fight. And then, right on cue, my phone lit up. It was a message from my brother, Leo. What the hell did you do? I smirked, imagining his face twisting in frustration as he read my post. Oh, poor Leo, finally feeling what it was like to deal with consequences. I tapped out a simple reply. Told the truth. Something you wouldn't understand. Within minutes, my inbox exploded. My mom sent me a long, emotional text about how I was tearing the family apart, how I had humiliated them in front of their friends, how people were starting to ask questions. My dad took a different approach, short, cold, and laced with anger. Fix this. Now. I let out a breathless chuckle. Fix this. That's all they had to say. Not an apology, not even an attempt to understand my side, just another demand. Another expectation that I'd fall in line, clean up their mess, and protect their image like I always had. But that version of me was gone. I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled through the comments on my post. Family members were divided, some calling me out for airing private matters, but others, they were finally seeing the truth. The illusion my parents had crafted was cracking, and they couldn't stop it. Then, the real blow landed. A distant uncle, someone I hadn't spoken to in years, posted something that made my breath catch. "James, I had no idea. I've been helping them financially too. We need to talk." I stared at the message, my pulse racing. So it wasn't just me. This was bigger than I thought. My parents had been using everyone, spinning the same lies to keep their pockets full. And now, their house of cards was starting to collapse. For the first time in my life, I felt weightless. No more guilt. No more pressure. No more bending over backward for people who had never truly seen me as anything more than a financial safety net. The realization settled deep in my bones, I was finally free. But freedom wasn't just about cutting them off. It was about reclaiming my life. The days that followed were strangely peaceful. My phone, once a constant source of stress, was now silent. No guilt-laced texts, no urgent demands, no manipulation disguised as family concern. I had blocked them all, my parents, my brother, even the flying monkeys who tried to guilt-trip me into making things right. And the best part? I didn't feel an ounce of regret. Instead of dwelling on the past, I poured my energy into myself. I finally had time to focus on things I had been neglecting, my own happiness, my own dreams. I went out more, reconnected with old friends, started making plans that didn't revolve around anyone but me. It was liberating, like stepping out of a dark tunnel and realizing there was an entire world waiting for me. One afternoon, I sat by my window, sipping coffee and staring out at the city below. For so long, I had been trapped, emotionally shackled by a family that had never valued me beyond what I could provide. But now, I could breathe. Really breathe. Then came the moment that sealed it. A letter arrived at my door, a formal one, thick with legal weight. I hesitated before opening it, a small part of me wondering if my parents had found yet another way to manipulate me. But as I scanned the contents, a slow, victorious smile crept onto my face. They had finally changed their will. Not to include me, of course, not that I cared. No, the change was much more satisfying. They were selling the house. The same house I had kept afloat for years. The same house that had symbolized everything unfair, everything unbalanced in our family. The weight of it was too much for them to carry without my financial help. And now, it was slipping through their fingers. I let out a breath, a deep, cathartic sigh of pure empowerment. They had made their choice. And now, they were finally forced to live with it. I wasn't their savior anymore. I wasn't their backup plan. I was free. I thought cutting them off would be the final chapter in this saga, but life had other plans. The moment my parents realized I was truly done, that I wasn't going to swoop in and save them, the situation spiraled. What started as guilt-tripping and passive-aggressive Facebook posts quickly turned into full-blown panic. The texts from unknown numbers started rolling in, relatives, family friends, even old neighbors who barely knew me. Each one carrying the same tired message, "They're your parents. You should forgive them. Forgive them." The same people who discarded me until they needed me. The same parents who treated me like an ATM and left me out of their future entirely. No. I wasn't falling for it. Then, there was Eric. My ever-entitled brother, who had spent his entire life coasting, suddenly realized the golden throne he sat on was crumbling. Without me footing the bills, without my steady financial support, reality was setting in. I got one last text from him, short and bitter. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family." I laughed when I read it. Destroyed it? No. I had just stopped carrying it. The real destruction was happening on its own. My parents, unable to keep up with mortgage payments, were scrambling. They had finally put the house up for sale, a last-ditch effort to salvage their finances. But it wasn't enough. I heard through the grapevine that their debts were catching up, that they were struggling in ways they never had before. And the best part? They had no one to blame but themselves. For years, I had been the one keeping them afloat. They had taken and taken until there was nothing left. And now, with their safety net gone, they were drowning. Not because of me, but because they had built a life of dependency and never once considered that I might one day walk away. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt something. But instead, I felt nothing but justice. For the first time in my life, I felt light, as if I had been carrying a weight I didn't even realize was there, and now, it was finally gone. The chains of obligation, guilt, and endless sacrifice had been shattered. I no longer had to wake up to desperate messages or guilt-tripping calls. I no longer had to worry about bills that weren't mine to pay or the expectations of a family that had never truly valued me. The silence that followed was the most peaceful sound I had ever heard. No more emotional blackmail, no more manipulation, just the quiet, steady rhythm of a life I was now building for myself. And that was the greatest triumph of all. I had spent years trying to prove myself, trying to earn love that should have been freely given. But now, I knew the truth, I didn't need them. I never did. The only validation I needed was my own. As I sat in my new apartment, a place that belonged entirely to me, I raised a glass to my own strength. I had won. Not by fighting, not by proving them wrong, but by finally choosing myself. And that, I realized, was the greatest victory of all.